everything.
And Craig, for you and Margot, in terms of your conversations about character and performance, I mean, first of all, you already have a bond. You're bonded in nationality. You're both Aussies.
You can tell with my accent, but yes.
Margot, there's a dead giveaway there with yours.
They're probably related, like somehow. It's
Similar convict past.
Yeah.
Right, right. Can you just, Craig, can you talk, and Margot as well, can you tell us a little bit about, your conversations, because obviously not only are you giving kind of a traditional performance, but you're going directly to camera so often. That's such a, specific stylistic choice and really grabs an audience in such a specific way. Can you just talk about those decisions and having conversations as a director and actor?
Stephen had written an amazing script that obviously you can see is very fast. It's got a very quick pace to it, and there's a lot of interviews going on camera. But the one thing that we talked about and added in was when we were trying to figure out how to deal with domestic violence in the film. Just when we watched interviews with Tonya and saw the way she would be so cavalier about it, and just shrug it off like it wasn't a big deal, and you just saw this numbness in her, or this like disassociation. And I was trying to figure out how can we show that as a character when these scenes are going on, and they're very hard to watch. So came up with the idea to break the fourth wall, so that she starts to talk to the audience in these moments, and it shows that she's disassociated to it and almost numb to it, and she's not really processing it. And so that's something we talked about and tried on the set, and then I shot it actually both ways with Margot, and then we looked at it in the edit, and Tonya down here at the end, and we sort of ended up using all of the fourth wall that we broke. But then very deliberately towards the later in the film when there's domestic violence, we don't break the fourth wall because we want it to be uncomfortable. Just to have that harsh reality. So it's sort of you get to start out in her state of mind and then just watch it more as a viewer.
And Stephen, let me ask you this too. From a writing standpoint. Oh, thank you. From a writing standpoint, sitting, looking at a screen, putting these lines, these words on paper. Digitally at first, and just tell me a little bit about what your thoughts were when you saw the film with an audience, maybe the first couple of times, because Craig, as you just mentioned, there are some deeply troubling moments throughout the film. There's the humanity of these beautiful moments for Tonya and her successes that are then just juxtaposed with such deep, sad moments of real abuse and difficulty in her life. From a writing standpoint, when you felt an audience's reaction to that, what was that like for you?
I'm trying to think of when I saw it with an audience for the first time. I think the first time we saw it was just us.
Yeah. Okay, that's great.
It was very sort of deliberate to sort of. I've always felt that the story was very funny and was very tragic, and it was also sort of framed in a whole lot of crazy, which I thought was I wanted to include all of that. I didn't want it just to be one thing. And when we talked with Craig originally, the very first conversation we had with him, he was just all over the tone of it, and very specific about it, and very specific about the pace of it. So, and then I was a producer on the movie along with Margot and Brian and Tom, so I could see dailies every day. So I kind of knew what we were getting. Right. But then the first time we saw it with Tatiana's edit was in New York, and I had said to Craig, I said, I'm really bad at the rough cut. Like I'm going to look like I'm upset, but that's just my rough cut face. Don't take it personally. Take it as a group, But then we all went out to dinner that night, and we were like, kind of, for our rough cut, it was really good. So the first time I saw it, I thought we were in remarkably good shape right off the bat. But then to watch with an audience and to watch their reaction when Allison throws the knife and everybody gasps and everything.
Which happened tonight. Yeah.
That I wait for it now. Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts. Or when Paul, one of the biggest times is Paul, who plays Sean the bodyguard, and says, "Oh, I thought you said Nancy Herring," and it brings the house. I love it. I love watching it.
And okay, so let's keep that mic going down to Tatiana. Since you just brought up the rough cut, I imagine that any film, there's going to be so much footage that's left behind ultimately that you have to leave, not leave it out of that final locked film. Did you have to kill some babies, so to speak? Were there things that you wished could have been kept that were left?
Yeah, the DVD extras is going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some great scenes.
Yeah, is that?
There's some great scenes.
Yeah.
And it is always difficult to leave those behind, but you have to, think of the movie first and move on, keep that straight line going.
Right, and then of course, you and Craig, I think just a few short years ago now, worked together. We were talking in the green room about the fact that you both worked together on Lars and the Real Girl.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
Yeah, and so here you are together again. Had you worked together between that period, between Lars and I, Tonya?
Yeah, this is our 5th feature.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then, knowing each other so well, can you just talk a little bit about your kind of creative process? How you work?
Yeah, let's hear about it.
Who frustrates who? Who's got habits that can't be broken? Like, how do you guys, how if you're in the room or?
Actually, with Tanya, there's an enormous amount of trust. We've been working together for 10 years, and I love that, I'll shoot on the set, and I won't even mark takes because I'm always fascinated by what Tanya's going to pick. She's got such a great sensibility for performance and the takes. So there's like many scenes in this movie that the takes haven't been changed from the original rough cut. So, that's a great safety net to have, to just and performance, is the base of, we've got to be engaged in the characters. So I just love that I've got that comfort level with her.
Yeah, it's a real luxury when you've been working with the director a lot, because I know him so well. I know what he's going to want and what to go for. It's a shorthand that's really fortunate.
Yeah. So he's like, he comes to you and says, Tatiana, okay, I'm going to have, we're going to have moments of handheld, I push in really tight, and we're going to need this, and then I'm also going to need split screen from you. We have long tracking shots in the movie, so he's just giving you a whole grab bag of cinematography and directorial choices.
Definitely. He shoots everything every which way,
Yeah.
which is fantastic. And yet is very planned and methodical, and it's really nice. And there's a lot of stuff that's in the script as well that is a terrific pattern to go by. But I like kind of working by myself and alone and not reading the script too many times, so that I can really just react instinctively to what I'm seeing. I'm sort of the first audience that gets to see the movie, so I want to stay away from it, from all of the technical stuff, the casting, the location scouting, all the compromises that you have to make all the way up to that point, and then I get to just watch it and react.
Is that why you stay away?
That's my story. I'm sticking to
Yeah,
it.
that's great. Wink. One other thing that was planned about the film, Stephen, maybe you can speak to this, and then Margot, I'll ask you about this person too, who couldn't be here tonight. It originally was when we had this screening scheduled for a different day and a power outage that we fought through here at ArcLight. I mean, come on, Culver City, power grid, right? We were so excited to think that Allison would potentially be here, and it didn't work out for tonight. But can you tell us, Stephen, I think that a big part of your script had Allison in mind. You thought Allison Janney from the jump, right?
Yeah, I've known Allison forever. I've known her since I was 17 years old.
Wait, what was it, high school? Where did you meet?
No. I went to acting school in New York.
Okay.
I didn't go to college. I'm a high school graduate. I don't usually brag about that.
You and Jeff Galooly. I mean,
yeah. But I went right to the neighborhood playhouse, and I met her, and she was just as good then, truly, as she is now. She just had all that talent and power in her. And I would write parts for her all the time, and stupidly, she would never get cast. I mean, up until my very last movie, which was just 2 years ago or something. And it was very frustrating, and I was frustrated that she didn't get the parts in movies that she does on stage and on TV. In movies, she's like, I'm the head of the CIA, and you're like, actually, you're not. You're actually a genius, And so I wrote the part for her, and it was a spec script, which means I wrote it on my own and no one paid me. And if people wanted it and they would bid on it, then I could have some control. And so they did, and the first thing I said was Allison Janney was playing the part that I wrote for her, and I wanted it in writing, or I would not go in and meet them.
Wow.
I know.
You were
And
not
and
kidding
I-
around, Stephen.
I was, and I was kind of bluffing too, because she actually hadn't read it then.
But she loves it so much. You're in the room. She loves it. I know she loves
Yeah.
it. Buy it.
No, I did that before she agreed to even do it. But then, I mean, the gamble, obviously, it paid off because she's so good at the movie, like she is in everything.
And Margot and Craig, can I ask you about? Well, let me first ask you, Margot. There's one scene that actually, sort of ironically, in this question, you're not in together. She is, I believe, it's the performance when Tonya confirms her that she'll be in the Lillehammer Olympics, and Levon is watching on TV. She wants to see her daughter's face. That's one of a couple of moments that are so specific, and Craig, the way you shot it, there's so little that Allison does outwardly. There's so much just behind the eyes and in her heart and in the way she carries herself. Margot, can you talk about the energy on set with her and during a take, and the way when you are Levana and Tonya, those moments are so fraught and so tight and heavy. Can you just talk about the way you two were, maybe when the camera was rolling and maybe when it's not?
Yeah, well, we work in a similar way. It's funny that they do feel heavy and fraught, as you say, because in between takes we're just like giggling and chatting, and then when we're like straight into action, we're throwing things at each other and screaming. But we work in a similar way, and same with Sebastian. I feel like we know exactly how to provoke a great performance out of each other. Both with Sebastian and with Allison, it was always, Allison in particular has an amazing way of catching you off guard in a way that is going to elevate the moment instead of, ruin it. And an example of that is when we're on our first date, Jeff, Tonya, and Levana all on their first date together, and the scene originally ended with this hilarious thing where Levana gets caught stealing chickens from the buffet, and the waiter comes over, and it's a really mortifying moment, but like it's hilarious. And it was one of my favorite scenes in the script. But on the day when we were shooting it, she, I really think she knew how to evoke that teenage embarrassment, that feeling of total insecurity by changing her line in the moment and saying, "You two fuck yet?" Because
That was improvised?
That was improvised, and we did not expect that. And we actually had our first sex scene coming up that night. So
Oh, she's got it timed.
so
She
we
knew.
were already, not that you'd say this outwardly, but really like deep down, I don't know how Sebastian, but I was always like, oh, this is weird. I mean, we still have, oh gosh.
Sebastian, you're great, but
Hope it's not
okay.
embarrassing or weird or anything like that. So it's already playing on my mind. So in the middle of the scene where she just outwardly says, "You two fucked it," I was like, he almost choked on his drink. My face went so red. It was like, that was the perfect way to capture what that moment should have been. And it meant that we didn't get to do this whole chicken bit, which was actually hilarious.
Right.
But she's just that kind of actor, and Sebastian's like that too. He knows exactly how to provoke a brilliant reaction or performance out of me, at least. And that's why I was so grateful to work with them both. And I think we do all work in a similar way, where we do kind of try and catch each other off guard in ways like that.
Yeah, well, and Craig, maybe you can speak to that too, because there's so many moments, and it's not just Allison, it is Sebastian, and of course you, and so much of the cast is, you're relying on them as a director to convey, just with the absolute subtlety, just behind the eyes, the thoughts that are running through their head that will never hear them speak out loud. But in these tough moments where you're, tight on them with the camera in a close-up, Craig, can you just talk a little bit about maybe were you kind of hands off and let them, here's what the feeling is, or did you just trust the whole time during the shoot?
I mean, I was enormously lucky to have Margot and Allison and Sebastian, and even Paul, who's, a wild, he just came from out of nowhere. He's done a lot of day stuff in television.
Yeah.
But the amount of talent, because this was a crazy schedule, and it's the wrong word, but I could almost, I knew that the acting side of it was going to get nailed. Like Margot had 9 to 10 scenes a day. We did 270 scenes in 31 days.
Yeah.
So it was pretty rapid fire. And the last thing I worried about was Margot's performance, or Allison's performance, or even Sebastian. And in these sometimes very intense scenes, but I knew Margot had done so much prep on this. She'd studied for 6 months, and acting coaches and like skating
coaches,
coaches, dialect coaches, like done all the research, and I feel like she'd done so much prep that it was just anything, just a little bit of guiding in terms of the amount of energy in a scene or the amount of intensity that's happening or just a beat. But every take was great. I mean, it was amazing to watch, and it was such a luxury to have that and be able to. We'd be doing 9 scenes in a day, and at the end of the day, I'd say, hey, can we grab this extra scene with the coach in the parking lot right now? We're ahead. And she'd be like, yeah, sure. And 10 minutes later, we're shooting a 2.5-page scene that she's flawless in. And I can do 3 takes and move on. So it was an incredible luxury to have that. And it would just literally be just moderating.
We have an amazing shorthand. By the end of it was like halfway through the shoot, I think our shorthand by this point was like, cut, again, yeah, again. Tears? No. No tears? No tears. Go again, action. That's it. It wasn't like I would like to draw or feel a little bit more. It was like none of that.
Can I talk to you for a second?
Yeah. There was none of that. It was like,
one more?
Cry, don't cry. Faster, slower, go. Because we'd already chatted, we chatted for months and months in prep about every bit of intention, every, story out, all that kind of stuff, so that by the time it came to shooting, and the set was madness. I mean, we would sometimes finish, I'd still be finishing a spin on the ice, and Craig's already picked up the monitors and running across the ice to go get another shot into the changing room, whatever it was, and I'd be literally just stop spinning and see him already running off with the monitors, and I'm like, I guess we're moving on, and skate on over. I mean, and everyone's like, wait, what are we shooting now? And it was crazy, but all that energy kind of finds its way into the film.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and
it was lit without DP Nicholas. It turned into 60-degree lighting, so the actors, there was no marks, and they could go anywhere in that space. So literally every take could be different, which was a nightmare for Tonya.
Yeah. Well, and okay, let me ask this too. I mean, one of the last things we see during the credits we have footage of Tonya Harding landing okay, I had tears in my eyes, all right? You land the triple axel, it's emotional, all right? It's, when did the choice come in who said, okay, we know we'd like to include the real footage? Was that, Craig, did you have that thought, or Tatiana, did you say, hey, let's put this in the credits,
Well, that sort of came about a couple of ways. First was when we decided to end on the boxing.
Right.
And then we were going to do, a lot of people came to the movie and they couldn't believe that these people were real.
Right.
And after every friends and family screening, I found myself all the time saying, well, Google it, look them up, it's real.
Yeah.
And then we decided to put in some of the real people at the end. Couldn't put it right up against the boxing because they didn't work together.
A little too jarring.
Yeah, and then when we came up with the main title sequence, decided to use some of the real footage. And then I just saw that one piece of her doing the triple axel, which I had never really watched in its entirety before that. This is months into the show. And I was just moved by it. I mean, I just think it was so tragic to see this person that was a phenomenal athlete.
Yeah.
And you now, after seeing the whole film, it's just so devastating to see all of that. So that's how it sort of came about.
It was very surreal, Margot, to kind of be waiting in the wings there, so to speak. And I mean, I'm sure you've seen the film so many times now. To still notice just the joy that you have seeing what we all are feeling. Those moments of the kind of the peak of her career, some of the happiest true moments, split seconds of her life.
Yeah, I never get sick of seeing that footage. I've watched it 1,000 times, both in pre-production, while we were shooting, obviously all through the edits, seeing all the versions of this. I still when that comes on, I can't take my eyes off the screen because she just looks so happy. She's so happy, and she lands the triple axel earlier on in the routine, and then does the whole rest of the routine with this smile on her face, and she just knows she'd done it. And then you see her talk about it in real life, and you can just, it's like that one thing they can't take away from her. She's like, I still did it, I still have that, and that gives me enormous satisfaction on that.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you all again for being here. It's been wonderful to sit down and chat with you. Guys, yeah, please, another round of applause for Margot, Craig, Stephen, and Tatiana. Thanks again, and thank you all for being at the screening series this year.